Welcome to our second keynote speaker, Honorable Lukas Mandl, who is an Austrian politician of the Austrian People's Party, who has been a member of the European Parliament since November 2017 and was re-elected in 2019. He graduated in communication from the University of Vienna in 2004, and also he completed a traineeship at the Federation of Austrian Industries. During his first term, he served as the Committee of the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety, and on the Committee on Petitions. Following the 2019 election, he moved to the Committee on Development, the Committee for Foreign Affairs, and its subcommittee on security and defense. He later also joined the Special Committee on Foreign Interference in all democratic processes in the European Union. A lot of work within the European Parliament, and we are very honored to have you as our keynote speakers. And we have asked him a speech on new rules regarding ESGs according to the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the so-called CSRD. Dear Lukas Mandl, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you for having me. I hope you can hear me properly. I'm addressing you today from the Brussels airport, and I'm more than honored and feel privileged to be invited to this EuroHub meeting Fit for the Future event today. I also thank my friend and good partner in many fields, Alfred Hadl, for the connection to today's event. And thanks also for the kind introduction. As you clearly emphasized, I'm very much engaged in geopolitics. My parliamentary responsibilities are in what we call the strategic compass of the European Union, meaning to get less dependent from other parts of the world and to strengthen our workforce, our innovation capacity, our production capacity, also to lower the bureaucratic burden for our companies, which is an uphill battle, I would say, a very difficult endeavor in this very European Union. On the other side, also to strengthen our outreach to the world and to enhance our capabilities, not only in the field of security, but also in the field of cooperation with reliable partners on the planet, which are decreasing in terms of numbers at the moment, as all of you know. And since I was asked very specifically to address you regarding the new rules regarding ESG according to the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD, I want to address you with that, and I hope it can result in some fruitful and substantial deliberation among you during this very conference. The Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD, is the further development of the Non-Financial Reporting Directive, NFRD, and aims to put sustainability reporting on an equal footing with financial reporting. The CSRD is part of the Green Deal. It requires companies to report on the impact of corporate activities on the environmental and society, and requires the audit of reported information by external accounting firms. This is meant to help investors, civil society organizations, consumers, and other stakeholders to evaluate the sustainability performance of companies as part of the European Green Deal. The downsides of the directive are the increased costs for businesses, which have to facilitate the sustainability reporting and pay for external auditors. Companies which export to non-European countries will have a slight competitive disadvantage due to the higher reporting costs. As non-EU companies with a net turnover of 150 million in the EU will have to comply from 2028 on, there won't be a competitive disadvantage for European companies in the internal market. That's what we have to work for, because otherwise we will create even more trouble than we solve any problem. Under the European Commission CSRD, the provisions apply to fiscal years starting on or after January 1st next year. for large public interest companies as well as banks and insurance companies already subject to the non-financial reporting directive NFRD. On January 1st, 2025, so in 1.5 years from now, for large companies that are not presently subject of the NFRD, or as of January 1st, 1 year after 2026, for listed small or medium-sized entities and other undertakings. If at least 2 of these apply, the company is seen as a large company. Net turnover exceeding 40 million and or balance sheet assets exceeding 20 million and or more than 250 employees on average during the financial year. The first companies will have to apply the new rules for the first time in the 2024 financial year for reports published in 2025. Sustainability reporting will also be required of non-European companies that generate an annual net turnover of 150 million in the EU and that have at least 1 subsidiary or branch in the EU. Non-EU companies will have to comply from 2028. How the reporting shall be facilitated? The new rules require affected companies to publicly publish available reports on their environmental impact, social and economic performance, as well as governance practices, where sustainability information is required to be reported in a clearly identifiable dedicated section of the company's management report. In addition, the CSRD requires submitted sustainability data to be audited externally to ensure that the provided data is accurate and credible. Non-compliance with CSRD reporting obligations may trigger civil and or criminal enforcement action. The draft standards are developed by the EFRAJ, previously known as the European Financial Reporting Advisory Group, an independent body bringing together various different stakeholders. Reporting in compliance with the CSRD will incorporate the increasing demand for digitalization. Companies will be required to prepare their reporting in a specific format in accordance with the European Single Electronic Format Regulation. The immediate downside to digitalization is the cost factor, as always. While the CSRD requirements will likely lead to higher costs in the short term, the European Commission notes that companies will likely face an increase in costs anyway due to the growing demand for sustainability information. At the same time, the short-term costs are likely to be negotiated with the goal to incorporate and harmonize reporting requirements in the medium to long-term timeframe. The European sustainability reporting standards regarding companies which require to take sustainability information within the report according to a digital categorization system, which should be developed with the European sustainability reporting standards. The standards will be tailored to EU policies while building on and contributing to international standardization initiatives. The Commission should adopt the first set of standards by mid-2023, so very soon, based on the draft standards published in November 2022. Main components brought by CSRD and ESRS include double materiality, inclusion of prospective information, information about the upstream and downstream value chain, and the concept of sustainability due diligence. The latter is closely related to the upcoming Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive that aims to foster sustainable and responsible corporate behavior throughout global value chains. The sustainability reporting period should be aligned to the reporting period used for the financial statements. The draft standard concerns the following topics. First, environment, climate change, pollution, water and marine resources, biodiversity and ecosystems, resource use and circular economy. Secondly, social, own workforce, workers in the value chain, affected communities, consumers and end users, and governance regarding business conduct. The drafts will be followed by final standards after adoption by the European Commission, which is expected in June 2023. I can assure all of you that there is also the European Parliament and many parliamentarians, I would say, who try to take care that if there is bureaucracy and if there are new bureaucratic burden for companies, that this will make sense for the use in the internal market, and this will also strengthen Europe to the outside and the European market in its global dimension, because Otherwise, we would even still continue to use leverage on a global scale for the European economy. And this is not what we should risk. It's quite the other way around. We tend to strengthen European economy and in some cases also to implement standards which for us seem to be the right ones also in other parts of the world. But this is an ongoing and unfolding endeavor, I would say. Thank you again for having me and for your interest. Regards from Brussels so far.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lukas Mandl, and thank you very much for your time. I guess you could stay with us for some minutes again. And so I ask if someone in this meeting would like to ask some questions, because this topic is crucial for us as a consultant, and it will have a big impact on the organization. I believe not only the big ones mentioned in the regulations, but also the small and medium enterprises who are on the value chain of the biggest one. So they will impact it as well. And maybe they do not have any knowledge about this, are not aware at all about these new rules, which will be in effect very early. So please, if someone would like to ask any questions or writing on the chat, we can ask to Honorable Lukas Mandl, please, or any comments.
I have one question, Isara.
Please
Yes.
ask.
Lukas, may I ask you from today's perspective, only auditors are allowed to prepare the sustainability report, which is quite okay, but management consultants are excluded from advising on how to prepare a report. And we think that that is not okay. I don't know if you are aware with this subject, but maybe you can be our fighter that management consultants can also help her clients, especially small and medium clients, to prepare the sustainability report. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may respond quickly to that, thank you, Alfred Hadl, for this clear stance in the sense of management consultants who clearly would be the right ones to act or at least to advise for the sake of the small and middle-sized enterprises. And this is also what lawmakers have to understand also at the European level. And I try to emphasize the message that if we put more burden on the economy generally, on businesses generally, then small and middle-sized enterprises are affected in a different way than the large ones. The large ones also have their issues. I don't want to underestimate that, but there are many things large ones can solve internally, but small and middle-sized enterprises need urgently and desperately need this help from outside, this advice from outside by consultants, especially when it comes to this bureaucratic burden and these standardized procedures. They also need it in order to keep up with their core business, because they are there for their core business, and we admire them for it, and they strengthen Europe with their core business. So I clearly take over this mission, I would say, from your side, also to advocate for management consultants to be allowed and permitted also to advise their customers.
Thank you.
For sure, there will be new competencies required for preparing the sustainability reporting. But we have to remember that the sustainability reporting report comes at the end of a strategy on sustainability, on organization, on resources. So it's something that will come at the end of a process. So, and what we have in between is something that we as a consultant community have to grow in terms of competencies, no? Any other question or comments?
There was something in the chat.
Yes, I do have one. Honorable Mandl, you mentioned earlier that you're aware of the burden imposed to cooperation, and I'm thinking here especially about mid-sized companies. These kind of efforts to provide, let me say, uniformed reporting do work well if everybody follows in step. What are you doing outside the European Union to ensure that everybody walks the same talk? Because if only the European Union and, let me say, closely aligned countries adopt these standards and others do not, we end up, desertifying competitive landscapes in Europe in some industries.
Yeah, thanks for this important question, which is very close, let's say, to my daily business, because that's exactly my major concern when it comes to foreign policies, geopolitics, that we still show up with some European naivety, I would say, that in other parts of the world, decision takers would have the same perspective on the same problems that we have. And this is absolutely not the case. Mm-hmm. It's also not the case in the field of climate change. And it's even not the case in the field of, let's say, ILO standards and other standards. So it's a very, very long way to go. And we can only make one step after the other, meaning that we have bit by bit to convince other parts of the world about our understanding of climate change, about our understanding of human dignity, of human rights. And this, when I say this, this also sounds very naive, because they are not waiting for us. It's quite the other way around. They have increasing population, increasing numbers in terms of economic growth. And for us, it's the other way around. But we are still an interesting market. And we still can achieve a lot through cooperation, where countries are like-minded, not in the field necessarily of economic standards, but in the field of democratic and rule of law standards. And these are the parts of the world we should cooperate with, and we should emphasize our approach and try to implement it there. But this is also the reason why I was highly critical on the new Supply Chain Act that was voted on in the plenary of European Parliament last week, exactly because we didn't take the steps we have to take first, strengthening Europe to the outside, having a stronger outreach to the rest of the world, having a stronger, larger leverage in other parts of the world, and then we can change something. And or to put it easier, more political for daily life, and also for an understanding for the next generation, I would say, which is not the last generation, by the way. Humanity will deal with climate change only entirely. Not Europe alone will be able to deal with climate change. So if we don't take the 95% of humanity on this way forward, we are going to deal with climate change with us, humanity will not meet these challenges, and Europe will lose. We will lose. We will lose also for the civilization we try to hold up and for the values we represent. And this can't be a proper goal. Quite the other way around. We have to strengthen in many different fields our outreach, and then we can implement standards there, and then we can have a level playing field, and we should not decrease our own opportunities via these bureaucratic standards all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for your comprehensive answer. Thank you. We also have some questions on the chat. One of these is what sanctions if companies do not follow or do not report? It's a matter of sanctions.
That's a very good question, which I'm afraid I will not be able to answer in its entirety. But the member states will have a large say in that. It will not be an EU sanction regime alone. It will be closely connected to member states' conduct in that field.
Oh, yes, yes. Maybe you were saying that maybe is up to the countries to define their own sanction system. Maybe relationship with the local regulation. So, because the question is also related. Good question. This one. China, India, what does it mean? Is a question from Wesley Peterson to us. Maybe the colleague can explain better the question. Wesley.
Oh yes, I was just saying it was a good question that was brought up, because other countries like China, like what's China going to do? What's India going to do? How are you going to be competitive if you're holding organizations to these standards and you're competing against international organizations that aren't being held to the same? So I think there's a lot of, you're going to create a lot of challenges, and you're going to have some ways to address those.
Thank you, Wesley, for commending, as I understand, the question of Ruggiero and also enlarging it regarding India and China and others. I want to share a story with you, which is very telling in my view. Visiting a large automotive company in Asia, in one Asian country in fall last year, I've received a huge presentation about the markets that are relevant for this company, and they clearly say they are producing for China because of the large number. They are producing for India because of more and more spending by the people, and they are producing for the US because of money and consumers, and they are producing for EU electric cars. So this was the approach, and this is what we have to understand in Europe today, that we are not alone on the planet, and it's by far not the case that everybody on the planet has the same approach to the same issues as we think would be common sense. It's not, and this is why we have to take the one step before the other. Just what I've just mentioned before.
Mm-hmm. The one other thing I would add is the education piece is key. And part of that might be showing how, as management consultants, and maybe we can lead the charge in this area, show how organizations can be energy efficient and enhance their processes and build their people. And through doing this, they can actually improve their OEE, they can improve their revenue, and those might be some proactive ways as well to help showcase of this is what we're doing at XYZ company. So those might be some more on the positive slant than, like, I think you got to go both ways, but just a suggestion.
Yeah, it's just for me, it's just the takeaway that education is crucial, and I can only underline. Thank you for sharing this.
Thank you very much. I see a comment. I understand the competitiveness, but someone should be a good example of ESG and lead the way. I'm proud that you, the European Union, is doing that and providing the example to the rest of the world. Hopefully others will follow. Thank you, Honorable Lukas. This is a comment.
Very, very nice words. Thanks for that. Let's keep up the positive work in that direction, but also see the risks. That's just what I meant. But of course, if we can set standards, it's the best thing we can do for the planet. It's entirety.
Sure. If we do not have any other questions, maybe we can thank you very much again. And we will be more than happy to have you again in our meetings in the future. And maybe next year we wish to be in Brussels and maybe meet in person.
Looking
there.
forward.
Yeah.
Would be delighted to have you there. Take good care. All the best.